Hello and welcome to Deep Dive on NewsX World. I'm Kriti Mehta. For this episode, we turn our focus to the high seas, where a dramatic US operation has sparked a global legal and geopolitical storm. The United States has seized 2 oil tankers linked to what it calls the shadow fleet. One of them Russian flagged in international waters. Moscow is calling it the 21st century piracy. Washington says it's law enforcement. So what do we actually know? What are the shadow fleets? Is the US being hypocritical? And most importantly, was this legal? Let's break it down. So what we know so far, on January 7 this year, US forces boarded seized a Russian flagged oil tanker about 190 miles south of Iceland in international waters. The ship, originally called Bella 1, later renamed Marinera, had been under US sanctions since 2024. Why? Washington says the vessel was part of a network moving sanctioned Iranian and Venezuelan oil, evading detection through flag changes, dark AIS periods, and complex ownership structures. The operation itself was extraordinary. US Navy SEALs were inserted by Special Operations helicopters supported by US and UK military assets. Russia confirmed it lost contact with the ship after the boarding. And crucially, US officials say a Russian submarine was in the general vicinity, raising the risk of a direct US-Russia military incident. Now, on the same day, the US also seized a second tanker, the Sophia, in the Caribbean. That ship was stateless, carrying around 2 million barrels of Venezuelan crude. Washington says this is only the beginning. To understand the situation better, let's first know what exactly a shadow fleet is. The shadow fleet, also called the dark fleet, refers to a global network of aging oil tankers used to move sanctioned or high-risk oil while hiding its origin, ownership, or destination. These vessels commonly use dark AIS periods, that's turning off transporters, fraudulent or rapid flag changes, and ship-to-ship transfers at sea, complex smell or shell ownership structures. So this system expanded rapidly after the Russia-Ukraine war, as well as under sanctions against Iran and Venezuela. An offshoot is the so-called grey fleet, vessels that are not sanctioned but show high-risk behavior patterns and require extra due diligence. What's the key point here? That this is not a few rogue ships. It's a global parallel oil supply chain keeping sanctioned states financially alive. Now, the hypocrisy, that's the question. Is the US applying double standards? This is where the controversy explodes. For decades, the US has positioned itself as a defender of freedom of navigation, open seas, rules-based international order, particularly in places like the South China Sea. Now, Washington is seizing foreign flagged vessels in international waters without UN authorization. Critics call this selective enforcement. They point out the US has not signed UN Convention on the Laws of the Seas, yet cites it when convenient. Sanctions are unilateral, not universal, and European companies have quietly enabled shadow fleets for years, but only certain states face direct military enforcement. In other words, the rules apply differently depending on who you are. Washington, however, dismisses these charges. What's Russia's response? It says it's outright piracy. Moscow's reaction was immediate and furious. Russia's transport ministry said no state has the right to use force against vessels duly registered under another nation's jurisdiction. A senior lawmaker called it 21st century piracy. Russia is demanding now the return of its crews, guarantees of human treatment, and an end to what it calls economic warfare on the high seas. China has also condemned the seizure, warning against unilateral sanctions without UN backing. So was this actually legal? This is the core question. Under United Nations Convention on the Laws of the Seas, or the UNICLOS, the high seas are governed by freedom of navigation. A state may board a foreign vessel only if it is pirate, slave trading, or stateless, broadcasting illegally, or consent is given by the flag state. The Bella 1 Marinera was flagged and not carrying oil at the time, and it was not engaged in active piracy, which makes the legal basis murky. The US argument relies on sanctions enforcement, claims of fraudulent registration, and national security authorities. But, and this is critical, sanctions are not automatically international law. They are policy tools. This is why many legal scholars say that the seizure is legally contestable and politically calculated and strategically deliberate. And this is not just about one tanker, it's about who policies the global economy, how sanctions are enforced, and whether power now defines legality on the high seas. The US is signaling it will use force. Russia and China are warning that this sets a dangerous precedent, and the shadow fleet, once operating quietly in the background, is now at the center of a global confrontation. Let's now welcome Commander Dr. Bhushan Dewan, who is a former commander in the Indian Navy, to join us in this discussion. He joins us from Mumbai. Thank you very much, Doctor, for joining me in this discussion. Let me just start off with my first question to you. Now, under international maritime law, can a state legally seize a foreign flagged vessel in international waters solely based on unilateral sanctions?
Not at all. Not at all. But I think we have to understand armed forces, as far as humanity has understood it, armed forces or wars are nothing but means to achieve economic ends when diplomacy fails, and achieve those ends by war. Vasco da Gama, etc., East India Company, etc., they all came here. They made colonies out of us, not out of us, almost more than half the world. The point is, where was the law? There's no law at all when the might is right. This currency is being given a encouragement by US actions. At the same time, I must tell you, capturing Maduro, there is also another thing which America has said. They've said that he was a criminal. See that there are criminal charges pressed against him. That is how he was presented in the New York court. And so we were, President Trump has told his government and political institutions that this was enforcing, catching a criminal. It was not declaring war, because Trump, president of USA, cannot declare war unilaterally. This is what he has taken, the plea. Secondly, I must tell you, practically if you see things on the ground, 30-40% people in Venezuela are happy that Maduro has been arrested and taken away. Because they are suffering economically so badly. And if you read the history over last 1 or 2 years, since January 25, since Trump's coming to chair second time, Trump 2.0, how they have broken bought the loyalty of the 2,000 guards, this inner circle protecting Maduro, by bribing them heavily. And one of the guards, he had a 6-year-old critical key person, 32 years person, and a 6-year-old daughter. She was suffering from serious illness. And Americans said, don't worry, we are flying her right now to America for treatment, and for lifelong we'll give treatment. And then those guards said, look here, if we support you, then what happens? Tomorrow if your attack fails, then we'll be butchered by president. So what they have done, these guards which have been broken into, which have been bought over, their families have already been smuggled out into USA by helicopters, by commercial flights. The point I'm making is another thing. Now, Ukraine, attack on Ukraine. Europeans and
Dr. Devan,
Western
we'll go
world.
one by one. We have a series of questions that we want to address. So I take your point there. But let me move on to my next question so we can cover it holistically, step by step. Now, would you say that the US is also undermining its long-standing position on the freedom of navigation by enforcing these sanctions through military seizures, which is the very principle it invokes against China in the South China Sea?
You're right, but please tell me 2016 agreement by the International Court of Justice, wherein they have allowed that Philippines' rights have been upheld under your own clause, this law of seas.
Yeah.
Then Convention of Law of Seas. You know that America is supporting Philippines against China in the Spartic Islands and those things being captured by China or Philippines. America is saying that the UNCLOS is being bypassed. Surprise of surprises. USA is not a signatory on UNCLOS. I think you also just mentioned it perhaps.
Yeah.
So what are they flouting really? They are not. Of course, there are other laws that 12 nautical miles is the territorial waters, which is beyond that. There is some EEZ. EEZ, the ships can move unless they are suspicious. And the international waters, anybody is free to go. So using these words, rule-based order, all that, all these words are used, jargon is used just to maintain status quo, maintain their own power. Now, so I'm just saying that, and what America is saying, then they are waking up with the Monroe Doctrine now. The Southern Hemisphere is ours. Please don't mess with it.
Donroe Doctrine now.
Yeah. So another thing, by the way, like almost $100 billion as an investment, or even more investment of China is there in Venezuela. China is investing all over the world, and they have a lot of economic interest there. So USO feels threatened that in our backyard, Venezuela is America's backyard, Latin America is America's backyard. Russia and China have no rights. It's very much the same logic which Russia said that Ukraine is my main gate. On my border, you are putting NATO missiles. So I'm going to attack them. So of course, before that 62 crisis, Cuba crisis, also same thing. When in Cuba, Khrushchev, then Nikita Khrushchev, 1962, John F. Kennedy was the president of USA. They placed missiles there in Cuba, and Kennedy said, "Get off, otherwise we'll drop nuclear bomb over you." So these things have been happening always in the history, always. That is not to say that this is justifiable. This is not justifiable at all. This is totally flouting the norms. But the point is, look at Trump. He is riding a high horse, and he is throwing away all the conventions to the wind.
Yeah.
Today he has banned
On
66.
that note, my next question too, in fact, do you think this operation sets a precedent for other powers also to seize vessels under the sanction or the banner of sanctions enforcement, potentially reshaping global maritime order from here on?
You are right. It can give a legal cover, but legal cover cannot be enforced unless you have the military might. So if somebody asked me on a TV debate interview yesterday that using that logic, can India attack Bangladesh?
Yeah.
If we did it, you think America, Russia, China, will they let us do it? No. It is a question of how much political military might you have. Might is right. That is a currency being encouraged. So that is being encouraged. The rules of the game are changing, and they the powerful people dictate the laws. You see, this is what is happening. It's unfortunate, but this is happening. This is a very bad turn happening after many years. Last it happened was Libya. It happened in Saddam Hussein's time. Western parts at least had a fig leaf of legality. Making a point about legality, at least that attacking Saddam Hussein, they had a fig leaf of legality that there was a UNSC resolution, namely false resolution, which proved to be later on. What resolution? That Iraq is harboring WMD, weapons of mass destruction, and nothing came of it. And just for oil again, Iraq, Libya again, same thing. And why? Both those countries were saying, no, Mr. America, get off our back.
Yeah.
We are not going to go by petrodollars. We are not going to.
Yeah, petrodollar is a question of the past now. But would you say the US has long done away with international rule of law with its recent military adventures to reassert its hegemony in the world order?
I tell you one thing. We can't say they have overlooked that at all. If 1 year later something else happens, again they will move the UNO and get a resolution passed, whereby UNO will support them on basis of legality. So it's all matter of convenience. It is not at all a guarantee that all the legal wherever the legal recourse works, it will be done. If legal recourse doesn't work, armed might will work. This is how it is going to happen. This is the kind of thing which has been laid out. And so this is no permanent indication that law has gone out of the blue, out of the window. It's not like that. It's just that whatever is convenient, possible, do it. That's what the America is doing. And this is not here, everywhere. I mean, look at it. I mean, Europe and USSR. It makes a lot of sense that I should buy from my neighbor, right? Gas. Nord to Stream gas pipeline was also already commissioned. From where Germany was, full Europe was getting gas from Russia. And US administration told them, no gas from Russia. Take it from us. What is the result? Full Europe is collapsing day by day, month by month, economically. Why? They live on energy. Even to keep their homes warm, they require gas. And that gas is so costly now, all their factories are closing down, their costs are going, economy is going down. And you know what, USA and NATO, European nations were together, the Western Bloc. Now they are all suffering because of this artificial control that you will not buy Russian gas. Why? If you buy Russian gas, Russia becomes enriched, attack Ukraine. This is what is being done to us also. Now threat of 500% tariff. I must tell you, America has also been buying Russian oil, you see. They have been buying. And secondly, India took Russian oil, but we have supplied after refining. We have supplied to Europe. So it's not a state equation. But point is what it means. It only means there's no logic. There's only might is right. And on that basis you are saying that India will put sanctions. Don't buy Iran oil. China is buying a lot of Iran oil. You know it. It's close. It is 70% of Iranian oil goes to China. And if that was not happening, Iran would have gone under much quicker. Now the $1 is $1 million is 1 million real.
All right, let's now talk about the internal politics in the US as well. As far as Trump's actions is concerned, we're sticking to the point here, right?
Yeah.
Would you say has Trump shifted conveniently from his own MAGA campaign promises as well to not have the US indulge in foreign wars, or is he still really appeasing his supporters since technically the US has no boots on the ground?
Yeah, very good point. I must tell you, the moment of truth for Trump will come on 3rd November 2026. What is that moment of truth? When the midterm elections will happen. Like in India, Rajya Sabha, America has Senate. Like India's Lok Sabha, America has House of Representatives. So in Senate, like Rajya Sabha, every 2 years, 1/3 members resign, and they have a 6-year term. So what I'm saying is they have a margin. Republicans have only few seats. They are in majority, but few seats ahead of Democrats. Same is the case in House of Representatives. Few seats ahead of Democrats. So Democrats are not going to take it lying down, and the moment of truth will come in November. And what will happen? In that, Democrats will say that Trump's erratic policies have really sunk America. But the sunk America, not America, there are still Mr. Trump has 11 to 12 months to prove that. You know why? If this whatever illegal things Trump is doing, if the economy starts picking up, which it is not, American economy is going down. If it starts picking up, jobs start looking up, economy start looking up, then even the Democrats and Republicans will not oppose Trump. It will all sail past smoothly. And if this is a moment of truth in November 2026, that is called the next Tuesday after first Monday in November, elections in America, every election happens that time. So this is the question that Trump has to prove himself, that his gambles, I call them gambles, Trump, the tariffs and Greenland and Venezuela, these gambles, if they may pay off, we don't know. And if they pay off, and second thing I must tell you, despite the shadow fleet story, I think there is a tacit understanding between Russia and USA that you mind your business, you can, we don't mind what do you do to Ukraine. And second thing is one more thing, the erratic thing which he's doing, and next thing is removal of Iran's regime. Next thing is, if you permit me to say, or I wait for it for your question, or taking over Greenland. he may have access to, like through Venezuela oil, lot of wealth. He may have America may have access to a lot of rare earth materials. Because going forward, I must tell you that he who controls Arctic now, Arctic Ocean, controls the AI economy. Why? All the rare earths are there in Greenland. And he who controls the AI economy rules the world. And you know that America has bought 1 year time from China. China controls 90% of the rare earth trade all over the world. And America, as you know, is highly dependent on it. So America is not putting tariff on China. So critical issue is strategic need of the hour is even more than oil is AI. AI means rare earth minerals, and Greenland is full of them. So this is a major game. This gamble, whether it pays off or not, will be clear, and he has time. I think this is a smart move he has done. It's a legal move definitely on part of Trump, but smart move is by then. You know, if he is able to show results, namely American economy is looking up now, he may sail through, and he may not get a position from his Democrats also.
All right then. It was an interesting conversation indeed, and something that needs further discussion. But for now, thank you very much, Dr. Commander Dewan, for joining me in this discussion. And viewers, that was all for this episode of a Deep Dive. Stay tuned to NewsX World for more news and updates.